Hello, I'm Mary Bevan and I'm here at Classic FM to talk about being a soprano. Typical vocal range for a soprano, I would say, goes from about a bottom A, which I would guess is R because that's about my bottom note, or that's maybe a G, and then it goes all the way up to, for some people, a top F, and some people a top G. Now I am nowhere near that. I like to sing highest, top C, but some people will get up there quite a lot, and some people will not even touch those bottom notes. But you can have a range of about 3 octaves, if you're lucky. When you see someone as a soprano, you might think they're just a soprano, but actually there are many different types of soprano. So for instance, I would be seen as a light lyric. But what if you see someone singing The Queen of the Night? Well, she's a coloratura soprano. Or if you see someone singing Pie Jesu from Fore Requiem, that would be a choral soprano. Now, choral sopranos sing in a very clean way with much less of the vibration that an operatic soprano would sing with. So if you think of the Allegri Miserere, for instance, that amazing top C that pierces through the texture, that would be a choral soprano, which takes a lot of training and hard work. So now I'm going to sing you Fore's Pie Jesu, firstly, like with a clean sound, as you would if you were a choral soprano, and then with a more operatic flavour, like a light lyric soprano, like me. I think being a soprano, you do get the most interesting roles on stage. However, a lot of unfortunate things happen to sopranos. We die a lot, mostly at the end. I'm thinking of Tosca, who throws herself off a wall. And then there's Mimi La Boheme, who dies of consumption. And then there's Violetta in La Traviata. I think she also dies of consumption. There was a lot around in those days, I think. But we also get to dance a lot. I personally have to do a lot of dancing in my job. And we get thrown around a lot, beaten up. It's quite full on being a soprano. In fact, I once had a boyfriend who told me that being a bass was the most difficult voice type. And I think if you're a soprano watching this, you'll know that that is not true, because sopranos definitely have the most to do in any opera. Some of the best soprano roles have to be the Mozart ones. At the moment, I'm singing Susanna in The Marriage of Figaro at English National Opera, and that, not many people know this, but is actually the longest role in opera ever. So you're on stage for the longest amount of time and you're singing for the longest amount of time. Now that might sound really, really hard, but actually it's really fun because you get to see everything, get involved, and you're fixing everybody and you're sort of in charge, basically. So that's nice if you have a lot of spare energy. Musetta in La Boheme, she's a singer herself, so her character is really overblown and very glamorous, and she gets to sing an aria where she gets all the men in the room to fall in love with her. That's a wonderful character. Some of the best song cycles have been written for soprano as well. What comes to mind is Britten's Les Illuminations, which is a cycle of 8 songs with orchestra. Incredibly difficult, loads of words. Just Britten at his very best. That's a wonderful one to sing. Some other ones, I'm a massive fan of French songs. So one of my favourite song cycles is by Fauré, and that's La Bonne Chanson, which is, you can do it with piano and string quartet, or just string quartet. Another one is Debussy Ariette Oubliée, which is an absolutely stunning cycle, and you can take songs out of these cycles, of course, and sing them on their own. Some are very simple and some are very hard. Singing opera and singing song, they are extremely different in terms of the skills that you need. It is possible to do both at the same time, but I probably wouldn't advise doing 3 operas and 2 recitals in 1 week, just because when you sing opera, you have to sing much louder. That's a very basic thing. You've got to sing louder. And you've got to sing over the orchestra, which could be anything from a 10-piece to a 30-piece orchestra just in front of you, and fill a whole opera house, which is most of the time a pretty big place. And then when you're doing a recital, the room is smaller, there are fewer people in the audience, and they are much closer to you, so you don't want to blast them. With song, it's going to be much more about the words and telling the story and using your face. And each song can be seen as a little mini opera of its own, because it has its own little story going on, like a poem would. Whereas with the opera, you are telling a much bigger story and you're acting with other people. So I'd say on a basic level, singing-wise, it's a very different thing. And in your mind, you've got to be, when you're singing song, you've got to be aware that each song is its own little story, and that you've got to be able to do the beginning, middle, and the end. So it can be a lot more tiring doing a song recital. But at the end of the day, at least I find it a very rewarding thing to do. But despite their differences, they're both essentially, at the end of the day, storytelling. So typically on a day when I'm warming up, I'll start with some gentle humming just around the house, making a cup of tea, testing out to see how bad things are going to be that day, or how good. And then I'll do some lip trills, which is where you go, which is me going with my tongue against my lips. Takes a little bit of practice to get this right, but it's so helpful for warming up the vocal tract. And then behind that is a siren. A siren is like a siren. Something else I'll do is a witchy sound, like which wakes up the sort of the if you like, the pinprick of the voice, which is the blade that you need through the voice so you can be heard at the back of a concert hall or an opera house. Something else I'll do is just on a very gentle, with a relaxed face, trying to get my head voice and my chest voice, which is what you use in musical theatre, trying to mix them together so it doesn't sound like like two different voices. It's got to sound like all one voice. So now that you know everything there is to know about your new favourite voice type, go out there and give us a listen.